Hey guys, welcome to the Danger Zone. This video is going to be about how I beat the best North American Terran player, Artosis, on LAN. I thought about doing it with a voiceover of my games and kind of going through it, but actually I met a guy named Diggity, and I thought he could actually just cast the games. So I hope you guys enjoy his cast of me versus Artosis, the StarCon LAN 2026.
Hey guys, welcome to another commentary done by Diggity on behalf of RayReign. This time, bottom right hand corner we have RayReign starting as a magenta Protoss. Bottom left hand corner we got Artosis starting as the yellow Terran. This is going to be on Polestar, and it is game one of a best of three from StarCon 2026 that happened in my local San Diego. If you guys are unfamiliar with RayReign, which is very possible these days on YouTube, where people see the name Artosis and click on the video because they love seeing him rage and engage in a lot of other things. I mean, he's very beloved by the community, and rightfully so. But if you're unfamiliar with RayReign, you're just popping across this channel, be sure to check him out on Twitch TV. Be sure to check out his YouTube channel. He's an up-and-coming, I would say, yeah, arguably up-and-coming Protoss player. Switched from Starcraft 2, which, oh my gosh. As a side note, this is just going to be the quick rant at the beginning. I get so frustrated by Broodwar players having some weird... Honestly, it feels like it's an inferiority complex in regards to StarCraft 2. So whenever you have a StarCraft 2 player come over to Broodwar, there's always like, it's better, right? And I'm like, how about you just let the thing talk? Anyway, I digress. I feel like it does a disservice. Anyway, RayReign is a guy who came from StarCraft 2, has moved over to Broodwar, and has had a lot of skill. Has really jumped to higher levels of the ladder around A, I believe, at this stage, very, very rapidly, which is a testament to his level of knowledge. I will say, if I was going to criticize his play, I had a really fun time commentating with him as a side note, so be sure to check that out on the live stream if it's still on Artosis' channel or in his YouTube archives. But my only criticism of RayReign's play right this second is he doesn't quite have the Protoss ethos as of yet. And what I mean by the Protoss ethos is RayReign's still playing too honorably. He's still wanting to play kind of macro correct and do things kind of heads up and try to play like best style. And to get to best style, you have to play quite a long time. But even best will abuse what I call, how do I put this? Oftentimes in build orders, you can force your opponent into situations where they are in a degree of informational ambiguity, and being able to exploit those spaces of informational ambiguity and kind of have a lot of build orders in your pocket and kind of exploit people in the dark and create a degree of, oh, I don't know what they're going to do, to keep your opponent honest. That is a large aspect of Broodwar that I don't think RayReign has exploited as much as of yet. I think he will get there, and I think once he gets there, he's going to be very, very dangerous as an opponent to everybody. At the moment, though, because of that, his versus Terran is his weakest matchup. In the meantime, Artosis opposite side, for all the memes about him hating Protoss, by the way, pretty decently speeded 232 factory. Great timing on that factory, as a side note. But anyway, Artosis, despite all the memes, is very, very good in this matchup. He's a very, very solid player, only has a single SCV on gas, by the way, which suggests we're making our way towards an expansion. This is kind of an interesting supply depot placement. Usually you'll see one lapped up, but RayReign gonna go ahead and try to apply pressure. With this, he's gonna try to focus down that SCV building in the factory. That's what usually leads to success more than anything else. Artosis immediately trading, not really missing a beat. And so, unfortunately for RayReign here, he's gotten a little bit of damage. Okay, here we get a little bit of time off. I don't know that this is going to be sufficient because we didn't... It's a little bit of delay, which might open something up. We got a second Zealot, and it looks like a Dragoon that will be on the way. This might delay Artosis' command center a bit. That will help delay the command center a bit, but keep in mind with this material investment on RayReign's part, that's also delaying the Nexus on the opposite end. We've got more, and also once that Vulture's out, these Zealots are going to be a lot less effective, and it can create what, especially with the bonus damage here on the Zealot. Although we're going to have a Dragoon in the mix, effectively RayReign will be at a theoretical material disadvantage for a short period of time before Dragoon range comes online. Because 3 Marines beats a Dragoon. The SCVs alongside help, and do we have a Vulture out yet? And the Vulture is absolutely pummel Marines. But what this does do is it slows down Artosis' natural expansion, throws him off his build order early a little bit. Got the Vicious Probe alongside. It looks like we got the SCV going ahead and blockading the... Oh, actually going to drop a Proxy Engineering Bay, which while it slows down the command center, which is somewhat inaccessible because of the Dragoons and the Zealots regardless, that will slow down RayReign. The nice play there on Artosis' part, as a side note. So this Dragoon is going to be delayed from the fight. And now, yeah, you got 6 Marines making their way up. And this is plenty to bully this back, and it looks like RayReign still trying to harass this. He's got a little while before that range comes online, but still wants to try to create some problem. He should be a little bit wary because this could turn into a counter push from Artosis. He's wandering up. He wanted to catch the weakened Zealot on that corner. Second Dragoon joining the fray. The Dragoon alongside, and Artosis is happy to fight this out again because of the material advantage. Dragoon is taking a good pocket. The other disadvantage of this is one advantage RayReign might have been able to glean by playing this a little bit more passively is keeping that Vulture off the map. Having that early Vulture placing mines aggressively is a big advantage for Terran. It provides a lot of informational shortcuts and really puts Protoss on more the defensive where they're not feeling as, and actually 4 Marines left as a side note. 2 of them heavily damaged, but that's going to be a nice thing for Artosis to deal with. Vulture also going to go ahead and pull out. So the Nexus somewhat delayed. Artosis's command center actually going to finish about the same time, which is actually a disadvantage to RayReign. Artosis and RayReign actually played some practice matches prior to this, and he was talking about his struggles in this matchup. I don't think Artosis is going to dive on this, by the way. Just holding near this lip line, waiting for the mine upgrade to plant it along that corner. But I was mentioning that Protoss to win this matchup has to have an economic advantage. And usually that economic advantage either turns into having an overwhelming amount of arbiters where you can kind of, or you can just rebuild your army quite quickly after getting a siege tank. Ooh, Artosis moving out with some siege tank action here. Maybe wanting to try to posture these Dragoons back and get some mines, maybe have them retreat to the mines to the north. I don't know, is Artosis going to move to the north? Or is he just going to go for a dive on the front line? This is 4 Dragoons with range. So very risky. It looks like trying to push in, getting a good mine planted here along that gateway that's going to push RayReign back. And he's actually successfully got this minefield where the siege tank can do a few pot shots here and there, but it would be best actually to retreat the siege tank before something pops and drags a mine into that siege tank. But this is 2 Dragoons killed. Okay, got mine drag into the Vulture. The siege tank now going to retreat. Excuse me. We still have that mine to the north and to the west that are going to delay that additional base from RayReign. This might have been a moment where he wanted to move out an additional probe to go ahead and start that third, and instead it looks like we're going to be delayed out. A lot of PvT these days is about getting your Nexus, your third Nexus down somewhere around the 630 mark, regardless. Just trying to get it as quickly as possible. In the meantime, siege tank researching, second factory down. We do have RayReign moving out, and he's going to go ahead and plop down that Nexus. I think Artosis probably saw that maneuver across that mine to the north. He's okay, and unfortunately RayReign behind economically, so Artosis sitting on, really doing a great job of the macro in the space of this, is actually up a considerable amount of workers here, and has all the pieces he's looking for, and going ahead and tacking on what will probably be 5 factories. I will say, criticism of Artosis's play at this stage, he'll put this turret back here to help defend against what would maybe be Reaver drops, but oftentimes he doesn't get a forward turret here or a Goliath, and he'll oftentimes, wow, this is perfect timing, he'll oftentimes allow this observer right here to sidle in and see how many factories he's building. That also can help with upgrades, but really the big advantage of this observer, when I was talking about ambiguous informational states in the previous comment, if you're going for a delayed Reaver drop or you're trying to sneak something in, this observer provides you a lot of information as far as base layout, where troops are positioned to have a more successful drop. And so there's a lot of information that is provided out of this, and I feel like Artosis is often very, very slow to evict this observer quite often, and I think he ends up losing a lot more than he would potentially gain out of it. On occasion, you'll see him produce a Goliath and use a comp set to wipe it out, but very rarely, and you can see that this turret is going to be out of range. Instead, Artosis is going to go ahead and drop a comp set in the main of the natural expansion to try to get a look at the gateway count. He is going to go ahead and see the surge towards 8 gateways, which should give him an idea. So critically, he's looking, it was a little bit early on that comp set. Really what you're looking for is okay, is it 8 or 9 gateways in the turnaround? Right now it looks like we're looking at 8 with this one at the natural expansion. It looks like we are setting up for 9. Protoss have had a lot of success against Artosis in particular with 9 gateway macro builds where you build an overwhelming attack force and delay the 4th potentially, and then also bully the 3rd and end up with an economic advantage that way. Artosis going ahead and grabbing that command center to stage up for an additional base. It looks like RayReign clearing mines and providing a bit of informational space to the north. RayReign losing a Dragoon to the front as Artosis kind of sidling out. What I do like, and I'm not sure, you'd have to ask Artosis if this is an adjustment to his build. I think in adjustment he's done to the 9 gateway production is to go for this sort of timing as soon as vulture speed finishes, move some vultures out and go ahead and get some disruption, check what's going on at the 3rd, but also confirm whether there's a 4th base going up around this timing. He might expend a comm set to do so, but just moving up and seeing these Dragoons at this position and seeing the Nexus, and actually if these vultures still have some mines, which they do, might be able to bully their way past this to the north, and which should at least dissuade a mine transfer, and might be able to get a little bit of tech as well. Looks like he's still holding to the lower lip. Command center just about finished, should lift off and make its way across here. And RayReign missing a few macro beats, unfortunately, oftentimes with the 9 gateway at this exact time. And did Artosis, yeah, he did comsat to the north to confirm that Nexus in the top right. A mine is in the way, does manage to kill 1 Dragoon, and is going to kill 2nd Dragoon as it's moving too far forward. So that'll be a dead probe, probably a dead cannon, that will force some of this attack force to the north, which will open up effectively an easy free grab of a base for Artosis at his 3rd. You'll oftentimes see Protoss harassing that 3rd base and playing effectively really good Protoss plays about slowing that Terran down to get that economic advantage. This is a hard base to do it on in this map because this is such a claustrophobic area. Another advantage for Terran is you can just kind of put some cruft here, and I'd love to see Artosis do that really rapidly. Just put some supply depots down as quickly as possible, because once you have those supply depots down and an army sitting in the no man's land right here, you're in a really, really strong spot. I will say this, opposite, there was a period of time in the Terran versus Protoss meta where the point of going for these 5 factories, looks like we're going ahead and surging our way up to 6, by the way, or sorry, 7, now that we've got this additional command center down and SCVs in places. Oftentimes what you'd see is you'd see a surge, probes getting caught in no man's land. If they were tending to transfer top right, Dragoons, eating 1 mine right there, but that should at least halt that vulture harassment. I think Artosis are trying to do that mine trick through that base. In the meantime, the vultures at least able to get a good look at what the Dragoon army is and creating a bit of harassment to keep RayReign in a more defensive spot. But what was I talking about a half second ago? 3rd base, yeah, oftentimes you'll see harassment grabbing the 4th. If you get cruft up here, it's really, really hard to punch through. That's what I was talking about. 5 factory. Once +1 finishes, what some Terran would do is they would use the vultures to kind of gut check and see where the Dragoon army count was and how sizable the zealots were, whether they have zealot leg speed, things along those lines. And on some occasions where they recognized that the supply was fairly even, go ahead and just go for the kill, or go for a positional advantage from there. Artosis very rarely will do that, though. Oftentimes he'll still go for the 5 factories to get armies, but you'll very rarely see him. It's kind of the skill check is what they call it sometimes, is like oftentimes 2-gate pressure against Terran is something along those lines, is can you deal with this effectively, question mark, opponent. And oftentimes you'll see Terran push on that +1 weapons if they feel the supply is close. Usually Artosis plays and honestly on Polestar I think it's better security, because you do have this easily defendable 3rd base as soon as you get cruft right there. It just makes sense to sit to 3 bases and at most just kind of move to this low ground and hold this, and then you have access to a 4th easily. RayReign getting a bit aggressive here economically, and this is again kind of the style he'll want to play. He'll want to play long-term macro and oftentimes make his way towards more popularly Shuttle Reaver is what I've seen him do, but it looks like this time he's going to go ahead and invest in Arbiter Psystorm. This is coming out a little bit late. Does he have Zealot? He does have Zealot leg speed. Doesn't have Psystorm yet, and that will make this push from... Actually, Artosis might be doing the push I was talking about, but it's just doing a little bit later than I was expecting. RayReign does have 20 supply lead, but the architecture of this map is really hard to deal with. Very, very hard to deal with. High Templar getting picked off on the front, which is devastating for RayReign. So for High Templar, a massive amount of gas gone, and Artosis might want to just go at, with all of that gone, it's just Zealots and Dragoons and an Arbiter. He might think about just going for a concealment. I think RayReign recognizing that, so going to go ahead and pull his army out. We do have some mines to the north. Still no Cruft as of yet. Artosis now moving out. Never mind, the SCV is going to skip. So this actually might open up an attack for RayReign towards this 9 o'clock base. And again, I just feel like a supply depot or two, and that is completely shut down. Instead, RayReign might be able to get on top of this army. Siege tank sieging from below. Arbiter, I believe, has stasis already. It doesn't have quite enough energy as of yet, working on that missile turret. And Artosis is forced to lift off, which is a big economic hit. So where he picked off those High Templar, put himself in a good position. Instead, he has some Zealots killing some siege tanks and getting on top of a lot else. And again, just a couple supply depots right there potentially would have shifted that. So RayReign getting a good counterattack. Artosis is suddenly really stymied in his supply. 2 Dragoons still harassing. And this is also critically allowing RayReign to get that additional base saturated. So he's sitting on 5 bases, 70 workers, which is exactly, or close to 70 workers, which is exactly where we want to be for the late game. That poor command. That comsat station burns. Siege tank can get repaired. Artosis losing several SCV and going to be reset in supply, although he can still sit because of the architecture of this map and make his way towards 200, 200 to play from there. RayReign going to take some shots likely in a minute because he's near 200 supply. In the meantime, Artosis is going to go ahead and make his way up to go ahead and grab that 9 o'clock base. Does he have 2 armories up as of yet? A lot of Terran recently have been kind of neglecting going for... So I see the 1 armory. Is this just the 2nd armory that started right this second? See if I can... It's always hard to select it. Yeah. Late 2nd armory, which means the upgrade's going to be a bit slower, which means these armies are going to hit all the harder. So RayReign in a really good spot here. Charging up to the top right, this is really going to make Artosis uncomfortable here as he walks in and sees the... This is a great situation for RayReign. Oh, he's going to be able to get some workers on top of everything else. Despite the cannon right there. RayReign trying to mitigate the losses. Lost 8 workers, which is significant here. And a bit of delay, but RayReign already has some of the ninja gateways to the north, which means he can basically play this style fairly comfortably. He's got a good, you can see in resources, he's got a big mineral surplus, which means what he can do is bully into Artosis, try to get some side storms on the siege tanks, maybe stasis the army, crush it, and then do a quick army reset and play from there. One problem with Polestar, though, is there's a lot of these sort of gaps where it's basically a perfect alley for Terran engagement, which means you can see it coming up from this ground and this side. It can be challenging to get a favorable engagement against Terran. So I'm not sure I like this particular style on this particular map. I just feel like this is a particularly tough map for Protoss versus Terran in general. But at this stage, RayReign doing pretty well. Gets a recall off at the 9 o'clock. Not a lot of SCVs there, but this is going to shut down a base. Might be able to get the command center if he focus fires it. He doesn't have a lot of Dragoons, but is certainly going to be able to wipe out the siege tank to the low point. Artosis saying, okay, you have that supply out of position. Let me just go ahead and make my way towards your natural. But this is going to be somewhat less effective because we do have these gateways to the north. And RayReign's army also positioned to the north, but a lot of the side storm not there. So RayReign trying to pull away from the superior army, doesn't want to bash his head. I think he did get that command center kill. Yeah, looks like the 9 o'clock, which means Artosis is going to be down to 2 bases versus 5 in not too long, unless he wipes out RayReign's 3 o'clock or is able to get some damage here at the natural expansion, etc. In the meantime, RayReign is expanding to the 12 o'clock location. But critical blow here from Artosis. It looks like he's able to get into the natural. Mines eating some of that army as it's trying to make its way across. We do have a good amount of stasis available and some zealots marching out on some exposed siege tanks. Unfortunately, that's RayReign having some trouble dealing with these siege tanks mid-map, which is delaying the reinforcements to the front. So he's lost the forward gateway, might end up losing his natural expansion in the space of this. Is he going to have follow-up? He's got all sorts of gateways humming. I'm looking for the emergency DT being built here as well. RayReign starting to carve up across the reinforcement line. Here are the zealots that are marching from top right. Siege tanks peeling off, wanting to attack the 3 o'clock base. I think RayReign might have enough units to clean up what just out of the gateways, clean up the vultures, and it looks like the siege tanks have mostly been cleared out as he was able to clear things out. So losing his natural expansion for wiping out an entire Terran army from 200 supply down is actually not that bad, particularly considering he's got the 12 o'clock and additional bases to spare. Might want to get a few additional gateways up here, just in case. Unfortunately, well, I was about to say that would have been a good trade, but losing that 3 o'clock as well definitely hurts, and RayReign needs to get back building workers as rapidly as possible. So I feel like that was, what do I want to call that? It's hard to say at this stage. Maybe a draw. Artosis continuing to pressure things in. He's got level 2 weapons, 2 Sidestorms greeting him and causing him to dissuading him from continuing to attack. It looks like the 6 o'clock base is functional now for Artosis, so opting to build a location there is moving out to the 9 o'clock, recognizing this is going to turn into a long-term macro-oriented game, so trying to get a turret there in place. So both players kind of, excuse me, pulling back, licking their wounds. RayReign's mineral surplus has evaporated. His Bane's mined out. His natural expansion is not functional. Might want to think about just evacuating the natural expansion at large. He's going to go ahead and move these workers out here. He does have fresh bases to work with, which will put him back at 3 bases versus what will functionally be 2 for Artosis. So still a fightable location. The next question for him is he going to try to create some fights with the top left, or is he going to try to shut down Artosis' economy? Artosis has got a bit of economic surplus. He's got his upgrades are somewhat behind where he might want to be at this stage. Usually you'd want to be closer to level 3 weapons, level 2 armor. He's just got the level 2, but on the opposite end, actually RayReign ahead in upgrades. On the opposite end, we still have Arbiters somewhere. Somewhere we got Arbiters. There we go. Arbiter, 6 o'clock recall. Artosis preemptively lifting off, recognizing his army is out of position to deal with this. The Zealots dying heavily on mines. It looks like the Arbiter going to lose its life as well, but that's still more economic shutdown. That's going to put Artosis landing command center at the 9 o'clock. He's effectively only mining at this location, which again still isn't blocked off, although it does have an army nearby to go ahead and provide some support. What RayReign could do is drop some stasis, although I don't see the Arbiters nearby to do so. Might want to spot and drop some Sidestorm, but I don't know how he would be able to get up there and not lose all of his units. Artosis diving in with Vultures, able to clear out a few High Templar. It was, what, 1 Sidestorm, and it was mostly on the Vulture line. Looks like the Vultures are going to get cleaned up. Keep in mind, these bases are blockaded by mines right this second. Even supply. Usually that would be a more desperate scenario for a Protoss in this situation, but because the upgrades have been delayed for Artosis, it's not as bad as it would be otherwise. It looks like RayReign going ahead and re-grabbing the 3 o'clock. Artosis remustering and repositioning his troops towards the middle. I think he wants to try to play a whack-a-mole game and might go for that 3 o'clock once again and try to shut down or create a death grip along that natural expansion once again. Is starting to move in to do so right this second. RayReign is at another... does have 200 supply to work with. I'm not seeing a lot of Arbiters, excuse me, in the air, but he still does have a considerable amount of High Templars. Just going to have to land the Sidestorm. There's the Arbiters. Looks like EMP's landing on one of them, so he's just gonna have to rely on Cloak. Tanks are not sieged. And do we have Sidestorm catching a good portion of this army? Excellent Sidestorms. Artosis ending up in a really bad trade here in the middle of the map, is gonna end up losing a lot of his army. Mine drags into the siege tanks as well. Having to regroup, and RayReign gonna go ahead and pull back, but that was an excellent trade for him. Also defending a good amount of territory. He's going to get the last few Sidestorms out. No, going to lose that High Templar. He is going to get a few Sidestorms as he's withdrawing. So Artosis mined out of the natural. The 3rd is now looking somewhat thin. He's still mining here at the 6 o'clock and the 9 o'clock, but we're starting to get the stages of this map where RayReign has a good amount of production top right, is well mining, where Artosis, if he wants to try to dive on this army, he's going to have to worry about the counter punches of recalls on his factory lines. RayReign with a decent supply lead is continuing to pump out the Arbiters, he's continuing with his upgrade line. Artosis continuing to press up to the natural expansion. Level 3 weapons, by the way. Ooh, big EMP on that Arbiter, and kind of a skeleton crew for RayReign to engage on this. High Templar, I think this is the rally point of RayReign, so going to get picked off, and Artosis could get a big win as he's moving in. A lot of Zealots making the way in. Don't see High Templar or Dark Templar to help prevent this attack. We do have an Arbiter top left. I think it wanted to stage for a recall at the 9 o'clock. Unfortunately, getting wiped, engaging with the turret and getting wiped out with some repair. Another Arbiter making its way across it. I think there's going to be another dive So RayReign playing a big risk here if he's going to go for the recall at the 9 o'clock. He's effectively trading his main to shut down and a kind of a skeleton crew of a recall here. And it looks like mine's mostly clean up the Zealots. Artosis is going to lift off. I don't know if they needed to lift off there. But I think this is an overall win for Artosis because he's able to clear out. Well, let's see if... yeah, he's still got siege tanks in the low ground. Might be able to clear out additional troops from there. RayReign bringing the rest of his troops, wanting to push in and force a drawback or try to shut down some of Artosis' economy. Not quite able to do so. Artosis, by the way, expanding to top left in the space of this to keep himself alive. Got some shuttles from some Zealot shuttle bombs. We'll see if that... we're going to see some suicide drops here at the 6 o'clock. RayReign is looking even on supply, but usually you want to be ahead in supply. He's really trickling the troops in. Didn't get the 3 o'clock saturated, and looks like he's going to end up losing that as well. Yeah, about 10 workers short of where he would want to be right this second. Artosis looks like he's going to be able to clear out that. RayReign looking to engage. Wants to cut off the reinforcements and again try to loop around from both locations. Zealot bombs are going to be ineffective at this location because we had 2 Goliaths that now have level 3 weapons that can really shred the troops. Some good side storms along the corner of this. So RayReign dropping some side storms and going to go ahead and evacuate otherwise. Somehow has managed to, I think this is more Artosis not having excuse me, the ability to multitask on absolutely everything. Wasn't able to clear out the gateway lines here, which is mission critical. Which means effectively RayReign can rebuild a considerable troop count rapidly, as you see it's happening right this second. And he's still got some bases humming in the top right. Artosis has a base in the top left. His 3rd is now mined out, has some SCVs that'll need to transfer, but he's effectively down to 2 bases. The 6 o'clock, because the disruption is still looking plush, as is the 9 o'clock, but we don't have a huge amount of SCVs mining at either space, so he really wants to get this in place, and it looks like he's going to end up losing this command center to the Dragoons as well. EMP on the High Templar, I don't know that that was worth it. However, with the 3 o'clock getting wiped out, RayReign's actually in red on the supply between everything else. So needs to get some additional pylons down, but cutting off that base top left, very important. Massive amount of siege tanks making that way for Artosis, but as we're moving into the late game, this is starting to look more RayReign favored. Particularly because I do want to make a comment that Artosis mentioned. In previous StarCons, the lower bracket, where I think this is happening, I think Artosis just got eliminated by Striker prior to this, it was best of 1, in which you're eliminated. This is best of 3, which gives Artosis a little bit more wiggle room. But right now, this is looking like it's going to turn into a RayReign victory, potentially. Because Artosis is spread out across the map. There's a lot of opportunity for RayReign to dive on these locations and create some economic disruption. We still have 2 base versus 3 base, but RayReign can grab, if he can wipe out those siege tanks, can re-grab the 3rd, can grab this base right here. It looks like he's trying to grab that base right there. Artosis effectively has to run around, play whack-a-mole, and worry about covering a lot of these exterior locations, which in many instances can turn into Protoss-favored engagements over the long haul. But I will say, this is the problem with Polestar, is you've got a lot of these alleyway gaps, and walking into them, yeah, you gotta, it's hard, because you gotta kind of anticipate where the army's going to be, and run where that army's not, and kind of hit the soft underbelly, instead of hitting the hard shell of the Terran, wherever they're located. Another recall here at the 6 o'clock, speaking of which. Looks like both Arbiters are going to sneak out to live another day, and that 6 o'clock base is going to get picked off. That's putting Artosis down to just the single base. He doesn't have a lot of resources in the bank to work with as well. So going to move in. These troops forcing a liftoff. The Zealots will be cleared out, and that'll be a reland, but that's a lot of delay in mining. In the meantime, 12 o'clock coming. It looks like this base is being grabbed. The 3 o'clock is still sitting under siege tank watch. Natural expansion hasn't been re-grabbed. This army, mostly it looks like sitting there in reserve. Another probe running out. And Artosis right now kind of playing this jogging game where he's moving up to attack this Nexus that's attempting to get rebuilt by RayReign top left. Hopefully RayReign's getting the cancels on that. And retreating to the 6 o'clock to defend that. So it's kind of, you can see where it's cross-map movement, which is giving time for RayReign to reset the army, theoretically rebuild if he can keep the macro up. And if he can keep it up and not lose bases, let's see if he ends up losing this 12 o'clock. force better trades, they'll end up in a pretty good scenario overall. Side storming on the high ground, now moving that army out of the natural expansion to go ahead and engage here. Vultures able to at least force back a little EMP. That was a pretty solid EMP. Catching, it looks like 3 High Templar. Did it get? It also caught one of the Arbiters as well. 12 o'clock is going to get cleaned up from RayReign. That's going to drop him to what will be 2 bases, but he still has the 3rd in reserve. Artosis still sitting on 2 bases himself. Looks like he has managed to saturate both of those bases pretty well. Getting really, really dicey in this for both directions. Siege tank grouping. It's kind of an interesting scenario here where I honestly think that if RayReign loses Nexuses, but can keep his probes alive, didn't keep his probes alive in this instance, but can wipe out the siege tank lines, it'll be a win. In this instance, the siege tanks survive, and the Nexus is gone. Is Artosis going to pull back now? No, he's going to keep pushing forward, which... Okay, now drawing back. Yeah, I think recognizing that would be a little bit too much of a commitment. RayReign allowed that Nexus to finish, which was very, very brave, given the current map situation, so probably going to end up losing that for free. And Artosis trying to rebuild, excuse me, trying to rebuild top left. Still recovering a bit from a cold, so I apologize for the coughs here and there. RayReign doing a great job now, recognizing, okay, attack where your opponent's not. Going to find some reinforcements making the way to the 6 o'clock, but mostly going to be able to swarm this, while Artosis is still sitting here top left. Excellent troop movement on his part, clearing out a lot. Gonna go ahead and let's see. Yeah, the Artosis pre-evacuating. Let's see how many SCVs end up wiped out as they make their way across as well. RayReign actually needs to get a good amount of his probes rebuild as well. A single siege tank losing its life, and Artosis on retreat. That will expose this top left-hand base, presuming that RayReign recognizes that it's in play. What would be the 3 o'clock in the top right-hand corner, now saturated here, and Artosis trying to get another base online, is just giving up on the 6 o'clock. I think realizing by holding the 6 o'clock, he was forcing him in a scenario where he was having to go catty corner. So instead is just going to go ahead and grab the 9 o'clock, grab top left, and maybe try to grab these left-hand bases. And then he can effectively defend and attack and deny the 12 o'clock and, excuse me, the 11 o'clock and the 12 o'clock bases simultaneously. And potentially put himself in a better scenario. Now that does leave a scenario where attack on the main would be a little bit more open. And keep in mind there are the Arbiters out there. RayReign in the meantime regrabbing that 3 o'clock. But we'll see how the situation unfolds. In the meantime, Artosis has more workers on the ground, is behind a significant amount of supply. Looking to see if there's additional Arbiters or High Templar in this army. We do have a good amount of High Templar. And I think RayReign recognizes, is recognizing that, oh, actually Artosis relanded the command center here. That command center's dead. Just dead. I was expecting actually this just to remain fallow at this stage. Instead, it's wiped out. But I think RayReign recognizes that Artosis is making moves here top left and is starting to stage troops near that natural expansion. Wisely so. A few vultures flooding through. I think this is one to pick off some High Templar, which, getting a little bit of Side Storm on the Dragoon lines. The vultures have been fantastic for Artosis, clearing out a lot of that Side Storm. Kind of an interesting swirl here, where RayReign now retreating the troops, where I think the threat is if RayReign punches into this area, look for Artosis to unsiege and move to this area to try to close it out and turn it into a more favorable base trade his direction, and lead an overall victory. You've got 2 Arbiters making the way across. We'll see if the recall happens here or over the siege tank line. We do have a few Goliaths. Unfortunately, they're moving away. RayReign drawing some attention here. This is the other advantage of Arbiters in the late game, is you can see in this exact scenario where RayRein's threatening the bottom left quadrant, but as these Arbiters make their way across, they can recall the entirety of this army, at which point this is mostly stranded. Yeah, we can move and start attacking the gateways here, but we've got gateways up to the north to fill in for RayReign, no problem. So we'll see, keep an eye on the Arbiters. We'll look for that Arbiter movement on that back end. Here they are now. One of them shredded shields. This vulture spots it. Is there a response? Siege tank 2 Goliath making the way up. This looks like it might be a little bit too late. Is RayReign still going to dedicate? Is he still going to sweep his way around? Looks like he's actually pulling back with those Arbiters. Feels a bit like a missed opportunity, and RayReign, recognizing, excuse me, that there's not a lot left threatening, is going to go ahead and draw back. He's going to maybe try to re-grab this Nexus, really? That feels brave. Might go for, rather than opting for the recall, might go for some stasis. If he can land it on a regroup punch. He does have a significant supply lead right this second. And he is going high ground to low ground with entry, and if he can get some stasis on the Vulture, that will open up some side storm. Lost the stasis with that Arbiter. Does he have? Did manage to get, okay, 2 siege tanks. Is going to end up with, isn't able to get the second, or sorry, got another good recall on that edge. And RayReign diving in. Unfortunately with this, it's creating a bit of a barricade towards the north. It doesn't look like it matters because he's got enough troops that he's going to be able to push through regardless. Also cleaning up the siege tanks to the south, going to be able to shut down this top left-hand base of Artosis and wiping out a massive amount of Artosis' army. And RayReign, again, with the Plusher Bank, more SCVs in flight. And SCVs eating Sidestorm as they're retreating. That's going to equalize the worker count overall. So now Artosis is just down to the 9 o'clock. All he has is that 9 o'clock base. It's going to end up likely losing these troops here. Unfortunately for RayReign, the natural and main are wiped out here. The 12 o'clock, he's grabbing it, but isn't really mining there. It did re-grab the third, so he's got some production. So it is kind of, it's two base versus 1, which is still winnable for Artosis. Interesting irradiates, rare irradiates on the High Templar to wipe them out. Good value with the energy, though. Is he going to get a third irradiate? Yeah, going to get a third radiate. But if RayReign can go ahead and get that 12 o'clock operational, he'll be in a really, really good spot overall. The other problem for Artosis right this second is he really needs to worry about protecting this 9 o'clock and keeping these upper left-hand bases out of RayReign's hands. And maybe establishing one of those bases for himself. More results marking the way. Ooh, a lot of... Wonder where the observers are otherwise in the field. Few pockets of troops here. Dragoons getting misfire drawn in right this second. The Zealots marching top left for RayReign. Looks like RayReign staging up. I think he wants to go for an assault towards the 9 o'clock. And as I say that, he's going to go ahead and pull back. Walk in with a worker. Maybe trying to draw Artosis into an engagement here. So a probe going to walk all the way to top left. There are some SCVs there and a Goliath to go ahead and halt that. Artosis repositioning, recognize, I think he wants to try to re-grab the 6 o'clock base. So drawing some troops that direction. The Zealots are going to find some siege tanks that are unsieged. They're going to regroup. And RayReign pocketing across the middle. Another, well, looks like an EMP exchange for a stasis there. Is going to be able to find the siege tanks to the north. So RayReign actually able to thread across the troop lines. Great troop movement right there from RayReign. Sneaking right under Artosis' forces, and this is going to give him a direct shot at this critical base for Artosis. He wipes that out. That will be game. It's going to put Artosis at a severe disadvantage. He doesn't have a lot. He's down on supply. He doesn't have a lot in the bank to work with, losing a lot of SCVs as well. He has another command center he's going to try to drop here at the 6 o'clock, but it's going to be a while before he can get things up and running again. In the meantime, 12 o'clock base is up. RayReign just needs to saturate it. He's also clearing out the top left. And with this position cleared out, RayReign can go ahead and potentially grab bases in the top left. So this is a severe shift in fortune. I also want to note no armor upgrades this entire game for Artosis. In the space of everything, got the 6 o'clock back up and running. Doesn't have gas running right there. Is trying to reland that command center at the 9 o'clock. So 12 o'clock operational. This not great, not really well saturated. 3 o'clock is running. It's almost out. RayReign up a significant amount of supply. The question is where does he dedicate that supply right this second? Artosis recognizing he needs to strike somewhere to end up with an advantage. Maybe wanting to take shots at the 12 o'clock. Currently running into RayReign's troops while he's unsieged. Low ground to high ground attack right this second. RayReign pulling back. Briefly. Where's the rest of RayReign's army? This is only a chunk of it. Big EMP. I know there's complaints about Plague, but EMP's pretty massive damage spell itself. Probably the largest damage you can get out of a Terran army. If you think about it. Siege tanks moving across. They want to try to shut down that 12 o'clock base. We do have an Arbiter nearby. If this Arbiter gets EMP, that could be a big shift in fortune. In the meantime, some High Templar walking to the 6 o'clock to go ahead and Psystorm there. Yeah, just gonna mosey on in. Ah! Oh, wow. Let's see if they can get irradiated. That was a big, big save on Artosis' part. Talk about heroic science vessels. Science vessels have been extremely powerful for Artosis this game. Artosis making a fight of it, despite being down on supply. Looks like he's halted mining here at the 12 o'clock. So, theoretically, if Artosis can get his macro rerolling, you can see the resources starting to pile back in. He might be able to turn this back around. But a recall last second, I missed that Arbiter on top of the siege tank lines. Gonna be able to clear this out. It looks like it is gonna, well, is it gonna be able to save? Okay, big Psystorm. Vulture's gonna try to careen in, clear out the workers. This is a big save for RayReign. Some Dragoons making the way to the 6 o'clock. Looks like some siege tanks made their way in as well. Are these High Templar rallied? One Psystorm over that siege tank. Do we have we don't have another Psystorm to work with. It looks like the Zelt's just gonna march in to try to shut down the 6 o'clock. Second Psystorm wipes out the siege tank. Poor High Templar. Vulture's pushing in to try to deal with the Zealots, desperately dropping mines. In the meantime, the rest of that army repositioning might be able to just sidle right into that 9 o'clock to shut that base down. Artosis dwindling on supply right this second. Very light on workers as well between all of the Psystorms and assaults that have happened otherwise. Good mine discipline, going to be able to clear that up. The Observer going to walk forward. Artosis sitting at 1/3 the supply of RayReign. Keep in mind, 20 of that supply is in workers, but it really doesn't matter at these late stages. Looks like RayReign has done it. Overall, he's reestablished that 12 o'clock, is going to close out this 9 o'clock. And I do want to note, again, if we were still on the best of one, yeah, GG well played, if we were on the best of one format, that would have been Artosis being eliminated, which is a wake-up call. He's one game away from elimination now in the lower bracket, going into Game 2 versus RayReign. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Again, give this channel a follow. Follow RayReign out in Twitch land if you can. Excuse me. We'll dive into Game 2. Well played by RayReign. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for listening. Hey guys, welcome to another commentary done on behalf of RayReign. If you just clicked it because it's Artosis on the channel, be sure to check out Game 1, but also subscribe to RayReign and check out, he's a great player and has a pretty fun, I really enjoy watching RayReign play on Twitch in particular because he's still learning, and this is actually something I want to highlight. Actually, really first, let me talk about the player positions and whatnot. Artosis bottom left, in the magenta Terran. I wonder if it was a race to the color and he got it this time. I know that's his preferred color. RayReign going to be the white Protoss bottom right. Wonder if not being magenta shook him a little bit in the previous game. This is going to be on Neil Sylphid. The biggest aspect of this map is there's no high ground to speak of except at these kind of directions here. You do have the ramp right there, which makes things a little bit more challenging. But I want to highlight RayReign's ability to adapt. In the day prior, in the practice rounds, he actually ended up playing Artosis on Polestar. Don't quote me, but from what I might be wrong on this, but I think what he attempted to do initially in those games that he ended up losing is he attempted to just go Gateway Man, and because of the large alleyways on the map, Artosis was able to get just really favorable trades and kind of swat his army and have overwhelming attack forces. I think RayReign, adjusted between that previous day and the match we just saw. And that's kind of what I enjoy seeing out of him. Getting first scout, by the way, here. Is he going to get a gas steal? Doesn't have quite the resources. Does get the gas steal. Next question, is he did go ahead and plop down a gateway. This usually results in a delayed factory. Well, always results in a delayed factory. But the other thing it can do is it can make early game aggression, which we saw in Game 1 from RayReign, all the more successful. I do feel like, nice little probe SCV fight. Artosis microing that SCV fairly well, doing a lot of damage on the initial probe. Now keep in mind, if there was going to be additional aggression from RayReign, he wanted to keep that probe health as high as possible and shield. Looks like we do have initial zealot. Some Protoss, what they'll do is they'll go for the gas steal and go for one gateway and then still just go expand behind it. See if Artosis, unfortunately, Artosis not getting first scout. He's going to end up scouting the third base, but we'll know the location of his opponent. The shell game. The one thing Artosis has put a lot of practice in aggression against Protoss opponents as far as follow-up plays, and by going for that gas steal, sometimes what he will do is recognizing his economically behind, he'll go for significant Marine SCV pull, sometimes with factory units, depending on what the stage of the game is, follow-ups. Meantime, Zealot's making its way out. That probe is taking a considerable amount of damage. The big advantage of having that assimilator down as well is with the positioning of the barracks, you see the Marines have to expose themselves. SCV taking a lot of damage, but notices the... Oh, is it still trying to make its way around? Wants to get that probe, doesn't get the probe, so one SCV down. Second Zealot being constructed, and I'm thinking this is going to be similar to Game 1. But this time with no factory to support, so once that Dragoon... If there's enough damage done and the Dragoon's not out, this could be a completely different story. SCV cycling around, trying to create a nice blockade. Did get the probe, but the Zealot, not quite able to get on top of the Marines. Second Zealot on the way, SCV able to get some good scouting, and the Dragoon being constructed. Is he going to be able to get the blockade this time on the Nexus, presuming that RayReign going to go for a Nexus follow-up? So we got 4 Marines charging forward. I think Artosis is going to go for what he's turning into a gasless expansion potentially to try to equalize things, but the 2 Zealots should be able to deny this. That was very brave on Artosis' part. Yeah, the Zealot's just going to go ahead and turn around and try to empty that bunker. Good micro here. Thus far from Artosis, so it looks like that SCV going to be pulled away. The Dragoon on the way. The Dragoon is on the way. We got a second Dragoon queued up as well. A lot of SCVs pulled off the line. So Artosis is going to try to adjust as best he can. He does have that refinery up. Initial 8 gas in the pocket. His peck pretty... Wait, these Dragoons quite a lot. Or sorry, against the Zealots quite a lot. The Dragoon taking a lot of fire. And this is, again, a situation where is RayReign going to turn around once he has range and once he has the second Dragoon? 6 Marines diving in, 2 of them very, very weak. That is going to allow that bunker to finish. And interestingly enough, Artosis going to end up economically ahead, although tech-wise behind, potentially. Well, behind where he would want it to have been otherwise. 2 Dragoons now filtering forward. They're going to have to be somewhat careful because they don't have range quite yet. And 3 and I wouldn't be shocked if Artosis actually unloads briefly before range is finished and tries to mow down one of these Dragoons preemptively. In fact, he's making that move right this second. So 1 Marine goes down. RayReign diving a little bit too hard into it. We have a 1-gate robotics. Where's the robotics? Robotics follow-up in the space of this. Range just about finished. Where's the factory? You got 2 factories being constructed, but Artosis is going to have this natural expansion up much earlier than RayReign, and already has a 4-worker lead on top of it. The slight advantage for RayReign is he's not having to worry about Vulture runouts right this second. So if he wanted to grab as soon as range is complete, if he wanted to grab a much earlier than usual 3rd Nexus around 6:15, does have the option to do so, and I don't know that Artosis would really feel comfortable going for a counterattack in the space of this, or really has an option to provide the aggression. The Marines making their way out. Dragoon range is finished. I think he wanted to see whether Dragoon range was finished in particular, because there might have been a text swap on RayReign's part. RayReign pecking away at that bunker. 4 SCVs should keep that alive. Doing some really good pressure here before the siege shanks out, and so Artosis is going to have to weather this for quite some time. Tossing out a ComSat, RayReign is going to be able... This is kind of an interesting scenario. So RayReign is going to be able to give that 3rd, other than he would have usually, but Artosis at the same time managed to get his natural up a little bit earlier, so I'm not going to say it's like a total wash. This is still a great timing for, especially if he can do it on this next cycle. Come on, probe, no. It's dropping some... I don't like this. I think he... Supply block, yes. But at the same time, I feel like getting that Nexus down a little bit earlier was the better play, because it's the mining that really... Anyway, Siege Shank there. Siege Tech just a few spots from finishing, and that's going to unfortunately put the Nexus a little bit closer to the 7-minute mark. Slight supply... that's okay. We'll see how things play out from here. ComSat looking at saturation, also checking to see whether there's that second gas or not. I think that's giving Artosis a pretty good idea that this is a more macro-oriented play from RayReign. As far as saturation, grab the medic. This is going to turn into an interesting push. So Artosis kind of I think he recognizes RayReign's a newer player. So he's going to do a siege tank medic push here in a second, which could definitely catch RayReign by surprise. How many siege tanks and might... so going up to 4 factories. Let's see if it turns into 5. Might just go 4 factories. Yeah, and just... I think this might have been also a play on Artosis' part. We recognizes I've got a lot of Marines, I might as well use them. Could also be kind of that sort of idea. Vulture finds Dragoons to the north. Is going to be able to sneak back out and stay alive and get repaired. But I'll be interested to see this particular assault. And we're not even leaving anything in the bunker in the space of this. Just pressing out onto the map. And 1 Dragoon going to get picked off. Yeah, and you need Zealots or Psystorm or Reavers, and RayReign currently doesn't have any of that right this moment. The Observer going to walk in, see that it's 4 factory. +1 weapons on the way on the armory. And this is going with this sneakily. Actually, it's going to potentially allow Artosis to grab a bit earlier of a third, and also that army is going to hit a little bit harder than it would usually. The 2 damage Zealots making the way back up. We do have the robotics just finishing, and RayReign concerned about an assault out of this, concerned that it was going to be an all-out attack. So, and again, worried about ambiguity. Artosis is still trying to get that mine drop trick at the 3 o'clock. The Vulture's still sitting outside. That's going to draw a lot of these troops back, but dropping 2 shield batteries that he really didn't need to as a result. I'm not sure if RayReign has run into, because there are like a few, I've heard of a few like medic marine pushes that are out there. It's kind of funny, this high ground actually works against Protoss. I'm realizing a little bit more than usual. Oh, that mine! And Artosis is going to go ahead and grab this command center. I didn't get to mention that adding that medic in and having kind of this adjustment, and also being able to exploit the lack of Reavers here, RayReign might have to cede a quick third. Vultures sneaking through at the natural, getting a mine, clearing a Dragoon right there, and it looks like RayReign, yeah, continuing to take some economic hits. Artosis doing a great job of stymieing RayReign's economy. He still hasn't grabbed a 4th. He still hasn't gotten the full gateway flood. You have a Reaver in the space of this. That Vulture's still alive. And he's going to get some bonus kills, slowing down the gas. So still no 4th base as of yet from RayReign. Having is significantly behind economically Artosis' base. He's got a Reaver and a shuttle, and definitely needs to have some sort of success with that. We'll see how quickly these... And some Observer discipline. Okay. Mine's getting a lot done on this map as well. The Observer sneaking back out, I think wanting to see a bunker being built here. That's kind of cute. Utilize those Marines even further. Just checking out the 6 o'clock just in case. Making sure that RayReign wasn't doing any I think he's just trying to verify whether there was a 4th base or not at a sneaky location. We do have a probe sitting near the 12 o'clock. In the midst of this, but Artosis is just in a... He's got a supply lead, which is always scary. +1 weapons complete. He's in a place where it looks like he's already built some anti-Reaver drop shenanigans. Vulture is continuing to sneak through with speed, just finding opportunities to get underneath RayReign's defenses and getting some good economic harassment, which is just compounding the issue. Reaver going across the lines dies on that turret line before it is able to unload the Reaver. And the Observer along the corner are going to go ahead and get pushed out. So now we're looking at 7 factories. I'm looking for an additional armory to be tacked on for Artosis. Although I'm not sure how in vogue that is these days for Terran. It seems like keeping delaying additional upgrades has become somewhat in vogue. Vulture's streaming out to the top right. The cannon not in place as of yet. So able to confirm the 4th is likely going to be able to wipe out that cannon. If he pays attention and recognizes the situation. Might not happen because the Dragoon's storming in fairly quickly. Is he going to get the probe as well? So, gets the probe. Gets the cannon just as it's completing. And again, more delay for RayReign, and Artosis, it looks like is staging up to go ahead and grab a 4th top left. He's got a 30 supply lead. And also, with the Vulture at the 12 o'clock, is denying that base as well. So RayReign still sitting at an anemic 7 gateways. Is just now getting Psystorm. Does he have Zealot leg speed? Let's see if I can find some Zealots wandering around the map. Okay, he does at least have Zealot leg speed, but right now, honestly, if Artosis wanted to... Well, okay, let's do the math. We deduct 20, whoops, that's not what I wanted. 20. I think Artosis probably could end the game right this second with just the army he's got, but he's just going to go ahead and slow play it. Grabbing bases top left. He's got a huge economic lead. He's at end game worker counts right this second, dropping that 3rd machine shop to get the siege tanks out all the more rapidly. More vultures going out. Trying to sneak through it, just wanting to confirm whether additional bases are getting grabbed or not. Might even be able to wipe out that pylon to the north. So RayReign, yeah, economically behind, doesn't really have fantastic... just building some High Templar, just now getting some additional gateways down. I'm wondering if it would be beneficial... this is one of those things where it's like a bad situation, hard to get back into. I think his best scenario would maybe just to go shuttle speed and build a couple shuttles and go suicide play from here. High Templar suicide drops. And hope for the best. Unfortunately, Artosis is already anticipating that, and he's got all sorts of cruft to potentially deal with that, and the mine's doing some significant damage on the corner. We do have a shuttle with 4 High Templar loaded up right this second, and a lot of Zealots along that edge. But yeah, Artosis has a massive mech army. It looks like he delayed the science facility a bit, and so went for +1 armor, and didn't opt to go for the 2nd armory in the space of it, instead going for a faster 4th base. So he is getting his 4th base well ahead of RayReign's 5th. Has much better saturation, is going to hit 200 supply before RayReign does, which is very, very scary for Protoss. And yeah, it's going to take some miracle shuttle drops or some just incredible engagements from RayReign to equalize things. And there's just Artosis is really well, has entrenched himself very, very well, and continues to expand his territory steadily. Kind of like, reminds me a little bit of Risk, where it's like you're getting that buffer space, or I guess global politics, where it's like you've got your buffer areas, no man's land. High Templar wandering up. A little bit scary. Are they going to get picked off? They are able to clear out. Okay, lose a lot of High Templar, but at least we're able to clear out some of the vultures. I don't know that was the best exchange. I think if for 2 or 3, I'm gonna say 2 High Templar, that would have gone good. Artosis knows he's in a really strong situation, so just continue to expand. I think he's going to grab this space, and he doesn't even need to saturate it, honestly. He's still... This is honestly like, on Artosis' part, almost like solo map practice sort of play here. Ooh, High Templar getting picked off. He's playing incredibly right this second. I want to commend Artosis here, and he was talking about this after the fact. Ooh, good mind drag onto those siege tanks. Pause that thought. Shuttles on the nearby side. Goliath able to wipe out one of them. And able to get a lot of damage on the second one. Artosis was talking about how in this particular series he felt like he was able to focus and play to his ability, which I agree. Looking at this game, in previous tournament situations, Artosis got in these scenarios and kind of flubbed it a little bit. Here, he is rising to the occasion, playing phenomenally in this match, and just smothering RayReign. Absolutely smothering. We have the additional shuttles out. But 2 vultures getting into the main. The main still has probes to assault because of all of the previous economic damage. But Artosis, yeah, just playing an absolute smothering match right here. Hard to contend with. Still have a vulture. Finally going to get cleared out. A photon cannon. I don't know that this is worth it at this stage. There's not a lot of minerals left to mine. Maybe at the natural. Okay, RayReign regathering his troops. I think he's got... And Artosis is also building a large bank. And usually what you want Protoss to have Protoss wants to have the bank to work with, because you want to reset oftentimes filling in Dragoons and Zealots build faster than siege tanks as far as a follow-up resupply, which is how you end up with victories with Protoss. But here Artosis has a massive bank that he could just rebuild quite rapidly. He's at 200 supply, is no longer bothering waiting. Looks like shuttle speed is just now being researched from RayReign, which just feels like too little too late. Big EMP on some High Templar right there. At least we got an Archon summoning to make up the difference. But yeah, Artosis saturated, has a powerful economy, a powerful army. The only thing is he's a little bit delayed here on additional upgrades. I don't think it makes a difference here. Well, +2 weapons on RayReign. But regardless, these siege tanks are scary. 2 shuttles coming in from the rear. Nothing happening with it. We didn't even get a siege tank out of that. Ugh, rough. Absolutely brutal. Bunch of Zealots storming in from the north, but there is a very, very deep spread. We have more reinforcements coming from the main. Actually, RayReign might have some winds of life here and might be able to clear this out, but the thing is Artosis can freely trade this army and replenish it very, very rapidly, where RayReign cannot. You can see where RayRein's almost dropping below 100 supply, where Artosis is still sitting at 170. Because of that economic push behind this, where you can just rebuild very, very quickly. Artosis now on top of RayRein's rally point, which is usually, GG moment. Artosis was even expanding here at the late stages. Man, Artosis looked vicious in this game. But we will move on to game 3. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for listening. Hey guys, welcome to another commentary done by Diggity on behalf of RayReign. Be sure to, so he obviously has the YouTube channel, which is burgeoning. Go ahead and check him out on Twitch as well. He's going up against Artosis. This is game 3. We're tied at 1 apiece and part of StarCon 2026. I believe this is the lower bracket. I'm trying to think who put RayReign in the lower bracket. I know that Stryker put Artosis in the lower bracket. Was it Nesh? You know what's funny is I actually feel like RayReign is a pretty good opponent for Nesh. But I'll have to go look back at what the bracket was. Anyway, Artosis in his preferred magenta, bottom left. As Terran bottom right hand corner, we got RayReign starting as yellow Protoss. This time we are on altitude, however you want to call it. Terran love this map. They love the doodads, the castle keep here in the middle of the wall. Zoomed a little bit too far there. They like this, a lot of these areas. They like the Bengalosses in the middle. Point being, I have not heard a Terran complain about this map yet. Which oftentimes means it's probably fairly Terran favored. Which, you know, I get it. Anyway, gateway opener again for RayReign. Game 1 had some decent success, interrupting a bit of Artosis' build order. Game 2, Artosis able to flip it around to a faster, even with the gas steal, turning it into a faster natural expansion. And RayReign a little bit because of supply block and other things. I think that was he's a much better player than me. But I will say I feel like the Nexus was still more important than the pylon right in that moment. In that particular moment. RayReign checking top right. In the meantime, but I gotta say, yeah, Artosis game 1 I think got the wake-up call. It's interesting because I heard both him and Stryker, there's the game, he had the early one. Stryker talked about playing Sva early, and Sva almost caught Stryker off guard with some cheese, which kind of woke Stryker up as far as the games. But I feel like the previous game woke Artosis up, and all of a sudden he just started playing. He's played really well that last match. The macro was fantastic. It really looked about as the macro was just smothering is what it came down to in that previous match. Artosis scouting top left. RayReign is gonna be cute here and try to block that SCV in and send the Zealot bottom left now that he knows the location. Fortunately, it looks like that SCV just going to go ahead and use the mineral trick to walk its way back out. A Marine moving out to the low ground. I think it's unfortunately anticipating another probe, and instead is going to be sacrificed to a Zealot. That was greedy on Artosis' part. Now he's going to have all the more trouble defending here. His factory's about halfway finished, but a fresh probe making its way across. Artosis still, okay, now recognizing with that Zealot positioning that his opponent's in the bottom right. 3 SCVs Sorry, 2 SCVs, able to push that back. The probe trying to get on top of the Marine instead, working on that SCV. It's going to get pushed back. Good micro on Artosis' part. Do we have a second Zealot? Has been the tradition. Yeah, we have the second Zealot making its way back across. 3rd Marine and 4th Marine instantly queued up. A Vulture on the way as well. We do have a Dragoon almost complete as well. But Artosis pushing in, recognizing the continued pressure. Going to go ahead and back up to the lines. The Zealots, if they can position right here, sometimes you can jump on that Vulture. Looks like RayReign retreating a little bit early. The problem is he's a ways away from having the Dragoon to support. Trying to turn... Oh, I think that was a bit of mismicro. Trying to turn back around. So now he's got 1 Zealot on the verge of death. A Dragoon versus 4 Marines, which it's going to get shredded, and these Zealots don't have a lot of help to provide support. So Artosis, if he just A-moves across here, and also that SCV can flip around and keep that Vulture repaired, he can just kind of A-move his way across and end up with a massive amount of map control to start. Is he going to get the Dragoon? Almost got the Dragoon. Doesn't want to lose the Vulture. Ooh, got the Vulture as well. With the 4 Marines and actually this SCV, so RayReign's still going for the Nexus here. With these Zealots damaged as they are and the Dragoon not that far off from finishing, these Marines, yeah, can continue with the assault. Might be able to get a probe. So got 1 Zealot. Gonna get the second Zealot. Are they gonna get the Dragoon as well? At the very least, they're not able to focus down the probe. Lost the SCV. Yeah, getting a lot of value here. And now, yeah, gonna be able to focus on that probe. The Dragoon misrallied. And attempting to draw back. On top of that, Artosis still has his heavily damaged SCV in the main. Is going to notice that it's a follow-up in the Nexus. So Artosis getting a lot done here. Has a massive amount of map control. Has a command center, again, complete. Well ahead of RayReign's command Nexus. Has a lot of workers complete on top of this. Dragoon making its way across. Interestingly enough, I think Artosis... not getting the mines planted. He's still... Okay, they're getting some mines. Is he going to lose this too? Losing those early mines is huge. The Dragoon's way out here in no man's land, so if this Vulture kind of boogies, might be able to still make its way out and create some additional problems. A lot of Vultures being produced by Artosis because he recognizes that the Dragoon count was reset, so he doesn't have to build a siege tank to worry about a lot of Dragoon pressure on the front. And so instead... What is this? Proxy starport for Artosis as a side note. I wonder if this is something he decided to do kind of on the flipper, if this was something planned. I like this, as opposed to what a lot of other Terran will do, where they will kind of go for the starport while they don't really have a lot of map control. Artosis recognizes, you know what? I have a massive amount of map control right this second. I've got Vultures all over the field. I'm going to get all my mines out on the map here, and then I'm just going to go ahead and get the Vultures inside a dropship, recognizing I've set my opponent on the back foot. He likely is going to go for a faster third somewhere on the map. And while he's doing that and spreading himself thin with the Dragoons, I'm just going to go for a drop and exploit that. I love this decision on Artosis' part. This is an excellent, especially everything that, I think this is an excellent follow-up to everything that has transpired up to this stage, because the second factory isn't giving you a massive amount of value at this moment, whereas a dropship with the Vultures that have already expended their mines is giving a huge amount of value against a stunted Dragoon army count. Really, really good play here. Also, you're going to have you'll have an observer to go ahead and clear out the mines, but this is, I like this a lot. We'll see how much damage gets wrought as a result of all this. RayReign, in the meantime, just sitting at 2 gateways, not even 3 gateways at this stage, just getting a second assimilator yet, still past the 7-minute mark, has not grabbed his third Nexus, is wandering up. We're going to have a siege tank on the high ground with siege check to go ahead and repel these Dragoons. Also, these Dragoons going to be out of position as this dropship is on the field. And so this is turning into an absolute disaster for RayReign. The one thing that if RayReign moves this observer to the south and looks at the late second factory, he might have wind of this. Not doing so right this second, so we're going to see a scoop up. Third Nexus getting grabbed. So we got 2 Dragoons near the natural, 4 Dragoons near the natural. This could be a lot of damage really, really rapidly. And 1 Vulture going to scoot and poke at the third to try to draw the Dragoons out of position. So 1 Dragoon Starting to draw that direction. B's gonna drop a no man's land and let the probe harvest begin. Pretty rapid pull. Unfortunately, a lot of the probes to the north not getting pulled as part of that, so the Vulture's still getting a lot of kills. And this is, again, additional economic damage that RayReign really cannot afford in a space a lot of this. Do we have any mines left to drop and be annoying? Looks like we have one mine amidst them. Artosis being really frustrating with this probe blockading the ramp briefly. At least they're encapsulated and enclosed, but this is still more damage and more shenanigans. Shenanigans! Third base online, RayReign 14 workers behind at this stage. Observer now down, seeing 5 factories. We do have an academy being constructed. We already have +1 weapons on the way. We also have Goliath range. I think Artosis wisely recognizing, okay, the way we lose this is by Reaver drops. So let me just go ahead and get some Goliaths out to push back any sort of shuttle pressure. Stargate out for RayReign, so it looks like he's going to try to go for a faster Arbiter than usual and try to sneak a 4th base in the midst of this. So this is kind of the prey comeback mechanic here. Unfortunately, by doing this, he's down a significant space of supply. Or if Artosis comsats and recognizes that this, if a 3rd base starts dropping here, I do believe Artosis will just unsiege and go for the kill. Because sometimes you can get away with the tech push, sometimes you can get away with an expansion. Very rarely can you do both simultaneously and survive. So Gateway Flood, but I think, honestly, RayReign doing what he can to deal with the, recognizing he's in a behind position here to make something happen. Unfortunately, losing some Dragoons for free to some of these mines. Dropship scooping up, moving its way back across. That should be the end of this, though. Artosis just going to hold it, and that will keep some Dragoons pinned back. In the meantime, Zelt leg speed on the way. A Dragoon again dying at the 3 o'clock. That's unfortunate. Again, these are losses. I think RayReign feeling a little bit of tournament pressure right this second. Down 20 supply is getting a Gateway Flood a lot further behind than I think he wanted it to be. Comsats there by Artosis. Just wanting to see where he's at. He's going to see the Stargate up, the Gateway Flood up. He's going ahead and grabbing his 3rd on the ground, recognizing he doesn't really need to worry about it. We have some Dark Templar constructing, which is oftentimes the emergency maneuver from Protoss. That could slow Artosis down a bit, especially after those comsats. Are we going to see a Dark Templar drop? We do have a shuttle out. Probably not, but that would be kind of cute. Meantime, Artosis getting a missile turret up, which would halt any run-bys. We do have 2 Marines somehow in that bunker. After the fact, Dragoons trying to clear out to the top right. I think wanting to make sure, or at least stage out, that mines have not been planted in the upper territory. We have an SCV still sitting up there. I think this is the same SCV that built that starport top right. What a story he has to tell. We do have Dark Templar. Is this going to turn into Dark Templar bombs? Vulture's finding the corner, still getting value. The few probe kills, and also able to sneak underneath and get yet another handful of probes. Nothing going right for RayReign here. And 2 of them might be able to scoop up in this dropship. Is he going to be able to get back out? That's a really heads-up maneuver, and Observer Discipline has not been great for RayReign this match. At least he's able to mind drag into that. So 3 bases up. Artosis 14 supply ahead. Dark Templar wandering out. I think they're hoping to find an exposed base. A Dark Templar did... Okay, Dark Templar did manage to drop into the main. I missed that. So we got something. They're visible. They're at least visible. I missed that suicide drop. But it looks like they're going to get cleared up fairly quickly. And they got... I'm not sure if that was a canceled machine shop or they were able to kill a machine shop. I think that might have been a machine shop kill, which is at least something. Unfortunately, I don't know that's enough damage to make up for the investment in Dark Templar and the shuttle right there. Artosis is still at a significant worker lead. And RayReign still down a solid chunk of supply. Next question is okay, does Artosis slow play it and go for a fourth, or does he just move out with his army, press towards the natural expansion, recognizing that we don't even have High Templar? Okay, there's 2 High Templar, but we don't have Psystorm upgraded yet. Not sure Artosis would know that, but it's going to be a challenge, I'll put it that way. No upgrades versus +1. Yeah, Artosis now moving out. I think he recognizes he's got a significant economic advantage. He's just going to end it here. Especially after that Dark Templar drop. Comsatting to see what he's facing in the north. Have some Goliaths just in case. Oh, Mines wiping out the High Templar underneath. Yeah, rough game for RayReign, and this is just a massive amount of Magenta Mech, which is nice alliteration, pushing through, and the mines deterring the army, so we're going to lose the third, very likely. Artosis very quickly repositioning the troops. The Dragoons getting wiped out, the Zealots not able to clear the mine, so it's just going to be Zealots that are very softened up. On top of it, the rally point right here for RayReign, so units are dying before they're able to engage. The third is gone. And Vultures now mining up that natural expansion. That should be GG. We have, looks like a scattered attack force that's been able to scoot out, and rather than going for the attack to try to wipe out these siege tanks from the rear, going to try to, it looks like they're trying to cut off reinforcements at the very least. Maybe position as though they're going for a recall, but the Arbiter's wiped out now, and the natural expansion is going to be cleaned up. We do have some Zealots marching in there, but they're running into a lot of mines that are clearing them up. They were already weakened from previous engagements. New units coming in from the north. RayReign down to 37 workers, going to GG right there, and Artosis advances. So impressive play from RayReign game 1. Game 2 and 3, Artosis showing why he was such a force to be reckoned with in this tournament. Special thanks to RayReign for the replays. Be sure to subscribe to his YouTube channel, check him out on Twitch, and support the StarCraft community. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for listening.